everyone, and welcome back to another video from the Freedom Boys. Today we're going to be diving into a discussion about immigration and the influence of biased media on the educational system.
To start off, we want to ask a question that's been on our minds for a bit. Is the border just about immigration, or is it about the future identity of America?
Border debates often focus on numbers, whether that being deportation numbers or the number of immigrants, both legal and illegal, to this country. Numbers aren't everything, though. There are deeper topics to discuss on the overarching topic of immigration.
The first of these topics is cultural cohesion.
Cultural cohesion is basically combining different cultures together, like combining American culture and like Mexican culture together, to combine the cultures together to make a new culture, in a sense.
In that, cultural cohesion is also the factor of assimilation, right? Like the United States, we expect immigrants to assimilate into this country, as in like learn the English language, learn about American culture, or learn about American history. But Americans don't see the need to learn about other cultures, which, if you're coming into a country, you should learn about the country you're coming into.
The second point on there is law and order, like having different border policies and that sort of thing, making sure that laws are followed by the immigrants to the country. Like, if you're coming to this country, you should follow all the laws that are put in place here, and you definitely shouldn't break big laws like border laws, like crossing the borders illegally.
Historically, immigration has either been frowned upon or encouraged. For example, back in the gold rush, for example, in California, immigration was encouraged through immigrants coming to America and starting a new livelihood, right? To start to mine gold, or to get new jobs, as there are a bunch of jobs springing up in California at the time. But sometimes the U.S. didn't want immigrants, right? Or not necessarily didn't want immigrants, but treated immigrants harshly. Like, for example, after World War II, where Japanese were put into labor camps. That was one instance of the U.S. not treating Japanese or immigrants fairly.
Currently, under President Trump, the border enforcement is very strict on cracking down on illegal immigration. Legal immigration is still allowed, and there is still a process to do that.
It does take a long time. Like, it can take up to like 12, 15 years, which is a long time. But people who've been waiting in that line for, I don't know, like 10 years, they see all these people who cut the line, all these people who just ignored it, and now those people are angry, right? I've seen people who have been waiting to get citizenship, who've been like outraged at this.
And this can also make visa holders and people who are waiting in line to get into this country very, very upset. Past presidents have definitely had different border policies than Donald Trump. The Biden administration was fairly lax on border policies.
Yeah, they weren't too strict, which can be detrimental. But the Obama administrations, they were very strict on border policies. Moving on with the topic of immigration, some of the ways that the border encounters have fluctuated through the years include
physical barriers such as walls and fences, like Donald Trump building the wall between Mexico and the United States, as well as fluctuations in Border Patrol staffing and Border Patrol resources.
Yeah, so this past administration with President Trump, we've seen an influx of Border Patrol staffing and funding on the southern border.
Some other points that we'd like to cover is that we believe that a country without borders is not really considered a country. It's just an open expanse of land that hasn't been taken by anyone. So the United States is considered a country in the entire world. So we do believe that it's very important that we do have borders that are well enforced and are well regulated.
Law enforcement consistency builds trust in institutions. Now, I know some people do not trust like the police at all, right? And there's some people who completely like fear the police, which, if you have like past trauma or something, that's understandable. But for the people who fear it only because people tell them to, that shouldn't be the case, because law enforcement is there to protect you. It's not there to harm you.
It's always important that you do your own research on those sorts of topics and make sure that you get your own opinion instead of just following blindly what other people tell you to do. Don't even follow what we're just telling you to do or what to believe, because we're trying not to tell you what to believe. But if it comes across like that, do your own research, figure out what you want to believe and that sort of thing. We're not telling you to believe anything.
Exactly.
The idea that immigration policy has to be enforced is definitely a big thing, and it has to be a very consistent enforcement of that immigration policy for the policy to be fair to everyone, as long as it's consistent throughout presidencies, which is actually quite difficult. Like we saw a big gap in the immigration policy lockdown in the Biden administration, but Obama and Trump actually had some fairly similar enforcement on borders.
And all that just to maintain fairness with people waiting in line to get citizenship or to get a visa to be able to live and work in the United States.
Absolutely. Immigration can also cause strain on local schools, hospitals, and housing, primarily illegal immigration. It just means that the economy isn't quite ready to handle the influx of people just entering the country. And that can put a lot of strain on the economy, housing, schools, hospitals, that sort of thing.
Yep, and then also wage competition concerns in certain industries, for example, like agriculture industry or other industries where people who come into this country, whether illegally or illegally, they mostly go into like, I don't know, I've seen most people say like agriculture, like picking crops and stuff, and or also like people also complain about losing jobs to illegal immigrants, which can also cause some issues in the workplace.
Usually the reason why people would lose jobs is that the illegal immigrants are working for a lot less per hour than an American citizen would, right? Like we have a set minimum wage, but the immigrant might be able to, the employer of the immigrant might be able to get away with charging them, $5 an hour instead of $17 an hour, so they might let off someone who costs $17 an hour to hire someone that they can only pay $5 an hour, which is also very unfair to the immigrants that are coming in.
We want to make it very clear that there is a difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. Right? Immigration is a great thing. It helps with cultural cohesion and
it benefits the economy, it benefits
exactly.
communities.
But we do not support those who break the laws to get to this country unfairly.
Wrapping up on the topic of immigration, we want to cover one more section, the effect of immigration on national identity. Historically, America encouraged assimilation, and still usually does. Assimilation is the act of conforming to the culture that you join.
For example, like learning the language. I know a lot of immigrants come here and they don't learn the language, which makes it annoying for citizens and the immigrant alike because there's no clear communication.
We'd also like to address some counter arguments to points we brought up.
The first counter-argument, America is a nation of immigrants.
This is counter-argumented by saying yes, but also it is a nation of laws. Yes, America was founded on immigrants, absolutely, 100%, there's no denying that. There's a difference between legal and illegal immigration, and America was not founded on illegal immigration. America was founded on the process of having laws and borders and that sort of thing. The second point is immigrants strengthen the economy.
Yes, legal immigration, that definitely can, but a lot of times you'll see illegal immigrants not paying their taxes, just getting away with like fraud, as you've seen in Minnesota. But the debate is all about process and scale. Like if you're processed into this country and you pay your taxes, you pay all your stuff, then that's great. You're helping the economy, right? But if you're illegally here, you're getting money, you're getting welfare, you're getting all that stuff, and you're not giving anything back, then that's what's weakening the economy. Third point, border security is anti-humanitarian.
So, anti-humanitarian is a very powerful term, and I don't believe that it really applies here. We believe that lawful systems can coexist with compassion for the people that they're taking away. The final point is no one is illegal on stolen land.
Now, this one I hear brought up a lot. For example, if you watch the Grammys, I didn't watch it, but I did see a clip of what's the word? Singer Billie Eilish, who said that in her Grammy speech after she won some award. She said, "No one is illegal on stolen land."
No one is illegal on stolen land.
And our response to that is, well, first of all, it's conquered and bought land. We won the war against Mexico, and we won the land. But we also bought the land off Mexico in the Treaty of Guadalupe.
And we also bought a lot of land off of France, like the Louisiana Purchase, I think.
Yeah, so all the land of the United States has been bought some way or another.
It's been paid for. And I think the point that a lot of people try to bring up is that there were native people to this land, and absolutely. But we did trade with the tribes, or we did fight them, and
Yeah,
we
and also,
won.
The Cherokee, the Choctaw, all those tribes, they all fought each other for the land as well. So fighting over land is not a new thing that Europeans brought into the Americas. So all the native tribes, they all fought each other for land as well.
It's not saying that everything that the United States did was justified, but at the same time, we still did win that land or buy that land. And so therefore it is now our property.
And then, of course, the last point for no one is legal on stolen land is that this country has borders. Although without borders, we wouldn't be a country.
Moving on, we're going to discuss how heavily political media has an effect on the country.
These days, politics isn't just about elections, or isn't just about rallies and speeches. A lot of political ideologies are embedded in schools, corporations, and social media. And of course, both sides of the political spectrum have pushed towards polarization of schools. However, a more leftist ideology has been showing up in more populated areas, primarily with younger people. Some examples of this are in universities, public education systems, and major cities. In some places, children as young as elementary school are being introduced to topics they are way too young for. For example, children in elementary schools have been introduced to topics like transgenderism, pornography, especially in the homosexual aspect, and they've also been introduced to topics that they don't need to be introduced about, like ICE.
Now, of course, we're always saying that this is just our opinion on this sort of thing, and not every single school is doing it, but there are definitely a lot of cases, and they are spreading and getting larger and larger. I've seen it at my school, personally, a lot of more leftist ideologies being pushed in the classroom, and that sort of thing, and I personally think that it's more okay during high school, but it does not have a place in the classroom or in schools in elementary school, middle school, and that sort of thing.
Parents used to have the ability to trust educational system to teach their children important life skills, just like math, reading, science, history. But I think now schools are focusing too hard on satisfying an agenda. For example, there's pride flags hanging, which that's fine, but when we teach pride or teach the history of the LGBT community in a class called ethnic studies, I think that's kind of pushing an agenda where the ethnic studies class should be focusing on ethnic groups inside America, or ethnic groups in general, but the LGBTQ plus is not really an ethnic group, which that kind of
it was definitely confusing, and still can be confusing to people. And we're not saying at all that ethnic studies should not be a class. We both believe that it should be a class. However, we do believe that it should be an elective rather than a required course, as it is in the state of California currently.
Another point is how U.S. history is taught. A lot of U.S. history has been taught as the U.S. being like a perpetrator or a villain, where that's not always the case. There's a lot of it being like, the minorities did nothing wrong, or the victims did nothing wrong, where the U.S. or the European, whatever, they were the ones who engaged in the war and stuff, which sometimes might be true, sometimes it's also not true.
And it is true in some points in history, but at the same time, there are also points to bring up that are definitely not the United States' fault. And I think that United States history is being taught in a more negative way nowadays, rather than being taught with the same pride and glory that it used to be taught with, while still acknowledging the flaws of the country.
Yes. And then we just touched on this, but race, gender, identity studies in the classroom. Teachers don't need to be teaching kids that they're confused in their body, or they don't belong as they're not a man, they're not a male, they're not a female. Teachers should just be teaching the curriculum and what is essential to be taught.
Of course, and keep in mind this is just our opinion, and we encourage you to develop your own ideas, and feel free to share them down in the comments. We're more than willing to respond and have peaceful conversation with you, as long as you're not, spouting hate speech or being disrespectful. We're more than willing to have a conversation with you about these topics. Students are also being exposed to left-leaning media way too early on in their life, as well as right-leaning media. It goes both ways. It's just that sort of thing should not really be brought up, in our opinion, until around high school. That's when you start learning how to be an adult. That's how you start learning how to function in society. But when you're a younger child, it's more problematic to be exposed to heavily politicized values and that sort of thing. One more thing that we'd like to touch on that is that conservatism is being looked at with disgust in a lot of schools, especially in California in our school district. Anyone who identifies as conservative or has different beliefs than the majority of people in the school are looked at with disgust, with hate, threats have been made against people, that sort of thing.
And we've experienced that firsthand. I can tell you that people, the majority of people don't like that someone's different or that someone is going against the popular culture or popular identity, which also comes in with how they celebrate all these Pride months or Heritage months and all that, but they never look at other sides of it, like Black Heritage Month or Asian Pacific Islander Month or something like that. There's all those things, but I think they're not essential. Like, if you're limiting someone's history to only a month, what's the point in that, right?
Adding on to what he was saying was that limiting someone's heritage to only a month can be considered even minimalizing their group or considering them a minority, which can be offensive to some people. Of course, it's not going to be to everyone, and most people in our area generally do think that it's a very, very, very positive thing. We personally believe that if not everyone can have a month, then why should anyone really get a month, right? It's like equality and that sort of thing. And of course, we have the understanding that people are like, oh, these are marginalized groups in the past and all that sort of thing. But I believe that the educational system and the curriculum that's being taught is already uplifting those people enough to the point where we don't really need all those months anymore. Of course, we're not saying that they should be outlawed or banned, and it's more than you're more than welcome to celebrate those months. We personally just don't believe that they're as necessary as many people make them seem.
Wrapping up with the whole school system thing, we believe that parents should have the right to decide when their child is exposed to political ideologies, and the school systems are making that incredibly difficult for parents to make that choice.
The educational system used to be as unbiased and non-political as possible in the past to foster an environment of learning and respect among Native Americans. Nowadays, almost everything that we've seen is politicized heavily. The issue has gotten so problematic that families are showing a movement towards homeschooling or sending their children to private schools. When trust between parents and school breaks down, the communities will eventually suffer.
Our last point, a country divided into ideological groups struggle to solve practical problems, including immigration reform. If every classroom, every border policy, every headline is filtered through ideology first, compromise becomes impossible.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week's episode from the Freedom Boys.
If you like our take on things, feel free to subscribe for weekly content, Fridays at 3 p.m.
If you believe we got anything wrong, feel free to share your thoughts and ideas in the comments. We'll do our best to respond to all the comments as soon as we get the chance to. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for next week's video on the impact of artificial intelligence on our country. And as always, stay patriotic and God bless America.